about this love.
How you guys doing today? You tuned into About This Love podcast with myself, Dale, and my beautiful wife, Sherelle. Say what's up to the peoples.
What's up, people?
On today's episode, we were going to continue the conversation, intentional dating leading to marriage. One of the things that we really wanted to focus on today is that in the past, we've actually known people who have kind of almost missed the person that God sent them because of their own preference. Earlier, my wife made a comment where you still have to be attracted to the person. Well, yeah, I would definitely agree. But sometimes a lot of our preferences, like sometimes whenever me and my wife having a conversation and she'll say something to me, sometimes I'll ask a question. I'm like, well, who created that as a rule? And really, what I'm asking is, what in your mind, who deemed that to be a rule? It's like, well, just like whatever it is, like, well, I like a woman that's 5'5", he say 5'5", thick in the thighs. You'd be like, okay, but it's like, okay, like earlier we were all chuckling, but I was like, I'm from the South, and it's normal for me to see interracial couples, and it's normal everywhere. I was having a conversation with some folks that are from up north, and they're like, yeah, that's that down south ish. And I'm like, huh? They was like, man, ain't nobody bringing home nobody that can't use my comb. And I'm like, and when they said it, I was like, what? But I think that the point they were making is the point, why I brought that up is to say that if God brought them their soulmate who wasn't their exact color, then you would miss the mark. And I think sometimes we can become so dogmatic that unfortunately, that's what happens. The Lord may present something to me, but it's not it's not what I want or the way I want it, so I reject it, and I think that oftentimes that's kind of just what people do. Earlier tonight, we were having a conversation, and one of the conversations that we had was that the Bible verse that says God is not a respecter of persons. And one of the things that about my spiritual father was saying is that oftentimes we think we dictate to God like what goes on. Like he was like, we'll tell God, well, God, I work Monday through Friday, so I'm available on weekends. So you just make sure it's from 8 to 5. You're like, wait a minute, like I'm God, but that's just how arrogant sometimes we can be or prideful. So it's like the creator of the universe has presented me with a gift of a soulmate, and my response is, I don't date the blank race or this race or that race. I don't date that joint. And it's like we'll miss what the Lord has presented to us because of a dogmatic mentality. And I think that I just want to remind people to be open. Like on a few episodes back, we actually spoke about we knew somebody who was presented with a gentleman, nice guy, but I guess the individual wasn't what she liked in a man. And to this day, it's like 10 years ago. It's like to this day, the person's still unmarried. It's like, that's just a perfect example. It's like a person may not be what you are used to or what you may deem likable. And when I say likable, I don't mean like attractive, because my wife, she said when she met me, she thought I was a clown. So it's like, that's what I mean. Like, just in that initial reaction, you might be, this cat's whack. This man is weird. It's like, that's just a initial interaction. And some people have told me that, like, man, when I first met you, I thought you was whack. And I'm like, what? And like, yeah, man, but I was so wrong. I'm glad I get an opportunity to get to know you. I'm like, wait a minute, what? But it's like, that's how we do battles though.
Yeah, I mean, people have said this about me in different scenarios where for a long time they thought I was shy because I didn't come into the room, hey, how y'all doing? Like, what's up, y'all? Like, I'm here. I was told a lot, like, oh, you must be shy. Like, you must be this, you must be that. And all I could think was like, no, I'm sitting here like observing y'all.
Just chilling.
But I never realized that I did that. I just naturally did it. So I'm sitting here just being myself, naturally doing things because, like, I'm new on the job. I'm, trying to see how people will react and how it'll affect me. And they're just, probably doing the same thing, but they're like more like outspoken about it. And then once they got to know me, it was like, oh yeah, you're not what I thought you were at all. Like, you're not. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, well, good for you. I mean, I'm glad you found out. I knew who I was, but I'm glad you found out. And so, I think it kind of goes back to what we believe, like what we're worth. And if we truly know that we're worth like God's best, because then if we're praying for the will of the Lord for our marriages, then, are we like checking in like, "Okay, Lord, is this it?" And being honest, some years ago, I was probably in middle school at this time. I was attending this one church where this youth pastor actually said to us as a group, and I remember it because I thought it was kind of odd. He said that he was specific. He was like, "Yeah, get real specific in your prayer about what you want your spouse to look like if you want to be married." And I mean, he was in an interracial marriage. And so he was like, "Yeah, I was real specific down to the hair type and everything." And I just kind of was like, okay, interesting. All right. Well, and that always kind of stayed in the back of my mind. So then fast forward to, in the previous episode, we were talking about our season of being in waiting, preparing for our spouses, preparing for one another. Back then, there was this trend where you write down like everything. I heard like the different ones I was listening to,
Yeah.
they said that they had wrote down a list of everything they, wanted the Lord to bless them with in their husbands or in their wives. And I remember doing a list like that. I remember like, okay, and mine was pretty general. Like, I want him to be like a teacher and not,
Have 2 eyes, have 2 feet.
no, not that general, not that vague. A little bit more detailed than that. It was more like internal stuff. Like I said things like, well, I want him to be a teacher. I have a heart of a teacher and a heart of a father because I had a child. I was a single mom at the time. And not to be a teacher, but like be willing to teach. Like,
Yeah.
be open to like showing, I don't know, my child and myself, like different things that are important to like getting through life basically. And so I remember, I think I sat on that little list for about a day. And then I was like, Lord, I'm sitting here praying your will and I'm writing a list. I ripped it up and I threw it in the trash because then I was sitting there thinking to myself, if the Lord brought someone to me today, will I run back to this list and be like, nope, 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 nope? Like, would I be like trying to check off the list of things? Because I mean, it kind of goes back to when we ask somebody what they bring to the table. Like, you honestly don't know what will come out of your spouse, like good, bad, or indifferent. You don't know what the Lord had put in them or deposited in them that is specifically for you that you wouldn't even think to put on a checklist or even thought that it was necessary, you know?
Yeah.
And I think you discount the Lord and the Lord's will for your life and your spouse. Like, we don't truly believe that the Lord loves us.
Like, I've heard men say things foolish like, only a weak man needs a woman to help him in his affairs." And I'm like, "Well, a wife. There's something God puts inside of a wife that unlocks in a man that can unlock his full potential." And when I say that, I'm not talking about business or financial success. I'm just talking about in general. Vice versa, there's something that God puts in a husband that can unlock something inside of a woman that just can't come out. Like, I remember years ago, you were saying how Rose had said to you, like, this certain person, you would have had
That's what I was thinking.
you wouldn't have
Right.
had a same life with somebody else that you have with this person because this person was, I don't know if you said meant for you, but
No,
they were specifically designed by God for you,
yeah.
tailor made for you. So it's like, yes, you can throw any woman in a picture, but that doesn't mean that I would have had the same lifestyle that me and you have right now currently. And I think that sometimes we don't really consider that. And I think back to what I said the other day, a few episodes ago, I mentioned when Samuel went to anoint David. And like, it's funny because like sometimes we read the Bible and we like kind of like fantasize these things like a sci-fi movie or like Star Trek or something. It's like the Bible makes clear that even the prophet Samuel, when he saw David, was probably like, yo, who is this your boy God? This your boy? This guy right here?
Oh,
Because,
God.
because the Bible actually says that when Samuel saw one of David's brothers, he said, "Surely this is the king of Israel." And God said, "No, I've rejected him." It was saying, for God doesn't judge off the things that men do. Men looks at the appearance. God judges the heart. And I feel like
Right.
why would God put that in the Bible for? Like, because Samuel was a human being. He saw the guy, yo, this right here, this is God's boy right here. This got to be God's boy. God said, nah, that's not my boy. And the dude turned around like, God, this your boy? This guy right here? And it's funny because like in some translations of the Bible, it's funny because we've talked about it, me and some of the guys in our Christian group, and it was like, David probably was funky because he was with sheep all
With
day.
the
He
sheep,
was handling
yeah.
sheep, and it was like he probably was funky, dirty, smelled like sheep poop. But it was like we laughed and it was like, yo, like these are the type of dudes that God will send to you, or women that God will send to you. God don't care about sending nobody built like Patrick Mahomes or built like a NBA basketball player. Nah, you know what
Or
I'm saying?
Adonis, like
And I'm not saying that to say that the person will be out of shape or overweight. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that, like, usually the people that God send isn't really like what we would have considered, if we're to be honest, you know. And I think about another story, but I don't think it really correlates. Is like, you know, just how even when Joseph, the father, the earthly father of Jesus, the Bible says that Joseph was going to look to divorce Mary in secret, because even he was like, yeah, I don't know, yo, this God talking, I don't know about all this stuff. Like, yeah, she prayed about the Lord, yeah, I'm that joint, you know, like whatever, you know what I'm saying. But after, so
yeah,
I like that the Bible shows us the humanity in people, you know what I'm saying. But we try to like elevate it like a Frodo in the Hobbit type joint. Like we try to like we try to like we put it in a position where we don't look at it as real people. No, she was pregnant by the Holy Spirit. You know, the dude was like, I don't care what you're saying. I ain't buying that joint. You know,
yeah,
when she had after she had a baby, I'm gonna divorce and be out. You know what I'm saying? But of course, I say that just to say that, you know, let us not, when looking for a wife or a husband, let us keep a clear and open mind, and be able,
mhm,
and really just be willing to receive whatever the Lord has presented before you, because we have seen people lose out on a potential spouse because of their preferences is stronger than what the gift that God wanted to give them,
yeah.
you know?
You know, it was 2 things I was thinking about. The Bible actually mentions, like, how good-looking David was. Like, it says it in the Bible, like, David was a good-looking man. I was like, "Oh, okay." Like, he
Yeah.
was a but, you know, like you said, just seeing past, you know, they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and it's like, you even gotta see past, like you said, the sheep poo, you gotta see past all of that. And even if you were on the onset of like meeting someone who you felt like the Lord was bringing to you or opening your eyes to, you know, you still have to even see past that to be like, Lord, what in them are you trying to highlight? But then it's almost like it kind of goes back to, like you were saying in the beginning, who told you that that was like the standard? Because
Yeah.
something you were saying, which I feel like we kind of deal with, is that if I show up with this person, it seems very elementary, middle school kind of mentality, but we still have it because we see it online. I know that people still kind of operate that way. It's like, you know, you see two celebrities who have been married for years and, you know, they seem happy together, they're thriving, but then they go pose with like a younger, or I don't know, what we would consider a better looking or more matched in like features kind of looking spouse. And it's almost like people are going like, well, that's who they really should have been with. They look better together. And it's like, that's actually very,
Surface level.
it's surface. You know, it's very surface. And, you know, it's almost like, who are you to even say that? So I think we do that too as believers. It's like, well, what this person look like? If I bring them back, are my friends going to clown me for being like with this looking person? Like that's not even my, and then you almost justify it as if to be like, yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, yeah, they, you know, that ain't my typical type. That ain't my type.
And
Yeah.
a lot of that, I think, if we're truthful, it comes because I mean, we chuckle like we chuckle or we laugh like whenever somebody would say like, you know, if she can't, if he or she can't use my comb, don't bring him home. Meaning that, you know, if it's a white person or Indian person or Asian person, don't bring him back to the house if they ain't got my color skin. And I chuckle when people say that, but really, what it really speaks to is a person's bias or
Mhm.
prejudice. And it's like God may not respect that joint. Like God may overlook all that stuff. Like earlier tonight, we were having a conversation about something, and I was saying how I can't remember if I read an article or watched a video, but it was a guy who, and he was older, probably older man, probably 40s, but in his past, when he was earlier and he was a teenager, he had committed sexual assault. But since then, he had done his time, and you know, was a upstanding citizen, and he was, you know, he was a pastor of a church. I don't know if it was a pastor or minister of a church, whatever. I
Mhm.
forget, but they found out, and it was like an uproar. It was like an uproar. I believe he ended up having to resign. But in my mind, I was like, well, the article or the video made clear that it was like 20, 25 plus years ago. And it's like,
Yeah.
and but in our prejudice, it's like we would condemn somebody that did something 25 years ago, but it's like And in my mind, when I read it, I was like, wow, I wonder if that was the Lord that he actually concealed or hid his past because people would judge him. And it's like, what, why somebody being judged about something that they did 25 years ago that they may have done their time, paid their debt in society, and also, live a different life for 20 plus years. But it's like, my point in saying that is that, like, because of our bias, something like that, the Lord would actually have to consider that from us because we're so biased or prejudiced. It's like things like that, which actually would unlikely allow us not to be able to be with somebody like that, even if they were somebody who was everything that we needed and we wanted and needed in a spouse, and the Lord knew that. It
Yeah.
was like because of our bias, we could potentially conceal that aspect of the person to us. And we feel, oh, you lied to me, you betrayed me. I didn't betray you. I didn't do anything wrong. That happened 20 years ago. Like, but because of what I did in my past, you would judge me, and I'm not that man or woman anymore. And I feel like, that's just another aspect that I feel like sometimes, people are like, oh, you betrayed me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because actually, I was gonna say, I actually had to apologize to a friend I had reconnected with recently. Remember, I was telling you about that, where I still seen her as our like 17, 18-year-old selves. And I'm like, I apologize because I still viewed her through that. Now, whether or not she was still operating in that, I did not know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I allowed what I knew about her from being a 17-year-old or 18-year-old around this person, like, really affect how
You
I viewed her before getting to re-know her again as this adult who had a family, whole husband and family. Like, who are you now? And even if you're the same person, or doing the same thing, it's like, the Lord is who judges the hearts and who judges the matters of our hearts. And it's almost like, we need to see it from the Lord's perspective, the heart of the matter. And we don't get down to that when we are, trying to explain away or be justified in the minutia of, it's like the minutia of the person, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. And I just was like, that's what I was thinking about when you were talking. I was like, I myself had to apologize, and not that it was anything as like as heinous as SA, but with that person. But I just was like, man, I didn't realize I held on to that for years, and we could do that. We can do that. Let's say it was, I don't know, somebody from years ago, like in high school that you had beef with or whatever. But now the Lord's like, this your spouse, but like, hey, this who, I'm bringing them around. So, for you, this is a totally different person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, in high school, they were this and they were that. And it's almost like if you allow that that old perception of that person to be, to define them, and it could still define, they could be, that same
Yeah,
person,
yeah, yeah. We
but without the Lord, you don't know. You're just actually writing story. You are making perceived assumptions, like you are preconceiving assumptions about them based on what you thought you knew,
Yeah.
never really knowing the person. And I don't know if I said it in a previous podcast episode, but that was what, that good friend who like kind of pulled me up in my season of waiting, that's what she did. But she said that her first date went so bad that,
Ask this guy, what is your problem?
yeah, she was like, because she said, oh, it was horrible. And it actually didn't check. That date did not, because it was a blind date. Her friends, knew somebody who was like, oh, yeah, I think it would be great for you. But she didn't see it. She herself did not see it on that date. That first date, like, she wouldn't be married today if she had.
Initial emotional reaction.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
And like she was like, yeah, it was horrible. Like I actually was never gonna go out on a date with him again.
yeah. No,
And
I mean,
yeah.
it's funny because a couple of years ago, we were actually visiting my hometown, and I saw a guy there. We, my wife, and my family, we were at the beach and with our children, and there was a
Mhm.
guy that was like, hey, Dale. And when I looked up, I'm like, hey, and my wife was like, that's your friend. I was like,
No, 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 sorry. No, your aunt said your cousin was like, "Oh, Dale, that's your friend?" And I was like, "It is now."
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
what was funny is like I was telling my wife and my cousin. I mean, this dude used to fight all the time in high school. Like we used like fist fight, like bust in the face. Like we used to
Oh,
fight
that
all the time at school. So like when I seen the dude, I was like, yo, don't tell me dude wants some smoke, yo. Like, cause in my mind, I didn't know. Like the dude's like, yo, I'm coming to talk to you. I was like, yo, this dude wants some smoke, yo. Like after 15, 20 years, like, yo, are you serious?
yeah.
But when the dude came up to me, he gave me a hug. Like, oh, I didn't know how to respond because my initial reaction was like, yo, I'm about to have to beat the dude up in front of wife and kids. You know what I'm saying?
You was
But
thinking that there?
I don't. If you have to, if you fought with somebody all throughout your high school tenure, and you meet them like 20 years later, like you don't know if they got smoked. Like I don't know who got the best, who got the best, or who last time we fought. So I don't know.
Oh, and you
I
don't
don't
know if
know.
he was
Yeah,
still kinda, like,
yeah. I
reliving
don't know where his
that.
mind was at. But
Yeah.
my point is that like it turned out to be like a very happy occasion, and I just felt like, man, we was kids, we was stupid kids, man. Anyway, well, anybody think about that? You know, so like, yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. Like you really, yeah, we were stupid kids. But it's like
Mhm.
in my mind, if dude would have went up, threw a couple punches, like you know, instead of like, yo,
What's up, ma'am?
what you
Like,
doing, bro?
what you want for real?
Yeah, and so I say that to say that sometimes, again, just be mindful not to allow whatever preconceived thoughts about an individual or preconceived biases that you have prevent you from being with the person. And, you know, I know that oftentimes we do that. We're just human beings. We do that. We live in a culture where, let's just be honest, we don't check in with the Lord. We
Yeah.
we throw this Jesus, I'm a believer stuff out, but it's like you the only thing you really believe in is you. You're not checking for the Lord.
Yeah.
You're not asking the Lord. You're not moving in a way where God has led you to point A to point B. For some of us, not for everybody, but for some of us, you
Mm.
know. And I feel like if more of us actually allow the Lord to lead our lives, and you know, a lot of us would be further along than what we are, including myself. You know, I'm not judging nobody from that aspect. I'm just saying, like, you know, come to a point in your life, especially when it comes to dating, because the person that you choose to marry will be is one of the most important parts next to the faith that you choose, which is, you know, Christianity. The person
Yeah.
that you marry is going to play a very pivotal role in your life, and that's something that that you don't want to choose based off a preconceived notion, a prejudice, or any type of bias that you might have. You know, and I just kind of wanted to kind of just say that this episode. Yeah, I just wanted something that was really on my heart because again, like I said, we personally know people that have done that. You
Yeah.
know, and it's unfortunate because you look back, you're like, man, 15, 12 years ago, you could have been married for like 12, 13 years now, but you allowed your prejudice or what somebody wasn't your preference to dictate to you. And now, you know, 10, 15 years later, you're still unmarried. You know what I'm saying? It's unfortunate.
You know, but the part about that though is, I mean, they just miss out, you know? And honestly, unless their heart was open, they might not have been happy in that with them.
I
If
disagree.
no, unless she
In my mind, in my
mm,
spirit, that's what people will say to justify. That's what somebody will say to
no,
justify.
yes, they would say to justify it, but then, you know, I think it's almost like had their heart not been in it in the beginning, like somebody's trying to match them together, and it's like, oh, well, because I trust them, I'ma just get with.
I'm not talking about that. Yeah, that's true. But there's an aspect of it that has to be organic. But yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, I think, but yeah, that's all I was saying was just
Yeah,
that I believe that if the person, if their heart never really shifted, and it's like, all right, but the looks, all right, but the that, you know, I think that that would have just been, you know, it would end very sour, you know.
yeah, because I think we're coming up on a time in the earth where for decades, you know, we've heard men say, I don't need a woman, I don't trust women. For decades, we've heard that. And I was saying to my wife, this is a point in the earth where people are actually about to see the results of that. Like the Bible says that we sow the wind and we reap the whirlwind. You know, over the years, like really, I don't want to talk about that. I just want to just give you food for thought before we close out on today's episode.
Okay.
Over the years, about 35 years ago, fathers begin to be removed from the homes. Say what you want to. It's a fact. Just look at the results of that. Go do your research. Look at the results of that. Now we're entering into a time in the earth where people have said, "Well, I don't need no woman. I don't need no man. I don't trust no women. I don't trust no man." Now again, we're at the time where we and I say we like the earth, not just the believers, but the earth. We are about to reap the results of that. And we had that conversation earlier today. We were driving down, like we were like, yeah, like we are in a time in the earth where we are about to reap the results of that. and there will be lots of men and women who wish that they had a man or a woman.
Mm.
They're gonna come to a point where they wish they had one because the times that we're coming in are gonna be dark, and you will need somebody beside you or with you who loves you to keep you sustained,
That could perish.
with the Lord to
Mm.
keep you sustained. I mean, I feel like COVID was just a small taste of that. COVID was a small taste of that, and what's interesting is humankind, we're humans, we're a lot like Pharaoh. When the different plagues came upon Pharaoh, each plague was designed really for Pharaoh to wave the white flag to
To
give up.
soften his heart.
But he doubled down. So another plague would come. There's an opportunity to wave the white flag, but he would double down. I feel like and the end result of that, unfortunately was, the result was that he lost all the firstborn in Egypt, were unalive, and because of the result of him unwilling to wave the white flag to what God was doing, what God was designed to do in his life. And I feel like we're at a point of time in the earth where that's what's going to happen now. You're going to see a lot of people reap the consequences, or reap the, I don't want to say benefits, because but reap all that crap they was talking about. They're gonna reap it. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna reap it, and it's gonna be very very unfortunate. You know.
I think that was really good. I mean, I'm like in deep thought, the wheels are turning in my head because I'm just like, oh my gosh, like there's it's so many ways to go with this conversation.
Yeah.
But I really want to say thank you for tuning in. If you started on part one, thank you. And if you're here now, thank you. I hope that these conversations have been a blessing because the Lord really is putting this together for, you as the viewer. I mean, us as well, because we get to relive some of our early moments together and not only with one another, but those like sacred moments with the Lord that we've had. And so if this conversation has blessed you in any way, definitely like, I don't know, leave a thumbs up if you're watching online, share the podcast episode with somebody who you think it will be a blessing to as well. And thank you for tuning in. And so until next time, peace.
Peace.